Welcome to Sosin IAS Academy. This is History Optional Faculty Srikanth here. Let's discuss about the role of Abraham Lincoln in American Civil War. American Civil War, which took place between 1861 to 1865, American Civil War, which is actually fought against the slavery. The main intention of the American Civil War is for the abolition of slavery. For the abolition of slavery. Abraham Lincoln role is very important in the history of America because he is responsible for the abolition of slavery in America. Okay, so let's discuss in detail about the role of Abraham Lincoln for the abolition of slavery in America. Okay, Abraham Lincoln, who is the 16th president of USA, he is the 16th president of USA. Okay, and he promised in the American election for the abolition of slavery. For the abolition of slavery, and that is the reason why he won the American election and became the 16th president of America. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln, who was actually born in a poor family, was born in Kentucky, a province in America known as Kentucky. In that place, in that province in Kentucky, Abraham Lincoln was took birth, and he was born in a very, very poor family. And his mother was died at the age of 9 years. When he was in 9 years, his mother was dead. And his father was a cobbler. And he was self-educated. Okay, he know the hardships. That is the reason how he know the reality of America. Okay, and with the promise of abolition of slavery, he became the president of America, 16th president of America. 8 times he lost the elections. 8 times he lost the election, and finally with the promise of abolition of slavery, he became the 16th president of America. Okay, and I made to say very interesting point which I want to make here is regarding the Abraham Lincoln personality. After he became the president of America, when he entering into the Congress, American Parliament is known as Congress, and particularly it is known as Senate. Okay, so when he is entering into the Senate, one of the senator. So actually he won the elections of America with the promise of abolition of slavery, and whereas the other states of America who was not acceptable with the abolition of slavery. So many personalities, many people were against to the Abraham Lincoln. When he is entering into the Senate, one of the senator, in order to humiliate him, in order to insult him, to degrade him, he intentionally asked that, Mr. Lincoln, I am wearing the shoes which are actually made by your father. So that is why in the public, in the Senate, he is asked that question because he want to humiliate him. But Abraham Lincoln took in a very positive way. Thank you, sir. What he replied is, thank you, sir. The way you remembered my father for his efficient work, for his quality work. Today and tomorrow, your kids will be, your sons will be remembered me for my quality of the presidential work in America. So that is what the personality regarding the Abraham Lincoln. So he want to, say some people will speak in a very, very adamant way in order to infuriate us, in order to make anger us, and they will enjoy the kind of, when we lose our personality in the public, they will enjoy it. So that is why personality is the matter. Some people want to try to humiliate us, but we should take in a very positive way and response in a very positive manner. So that is what the personality. I will also show a personality in Indian history. There is a person called EMS Namboodiripad. EMS Namboodiripad. He is the first non-Congress CM of India. He is the first non-Congress CM of India, whose name is EMS Namboodiripad. And in 1956 elections, for the first time, democratically elected communist government was formed in the Kerala for the first time in the world. For the first time, democratically elected communist government was formed in the Kerala. So obviously this is the first non-Congress government in India, and he is the first non-Congress chief minister. EMS Namboodiripad. EMS Namboodiripad. So point here is, so he is the first non-Congress chief minister of India, and of course in 1956 elections he won the elections. Up to 1956 means what? Many people having the favoritism towards the so-called popular party called Congress. So, including the reporters, the press is so much favorite toward the Congress. So, intentionally in a press meet, some reporter, in order to humiliate, in order to degrade the Namboodiripad, he asked a question. Mr. Namboodiripad, do you stammer always? Because Nambudripad have the habit called stammering. He is the stammer. He has the habit of stammer. So he asked the question, do you stammer always? So Nambudripad taken a very positive way. No, I don't stammer always. When I speak, only I will stammer. So that is what the personality. Okay, in the front of the public, he want to humiliate him, but he took in a very positive way and responded in a positive manner. So that is what the personality. So when coming to back to the topic of Civil War, role of Abraham Lincoln. So he won the elections with the promise of abolition of slavery, and in the first year itself, he want to implement. That is, for the abolition of slavery, he tried much. So what it is, actually, the northern states, that is, the northern states were pro for abolition of slavery. Pro for abolition of slavery, whereas the southern 11 states were against to abolition of slavery. Okay. So the northern states of America were actually pro for the abolition of slavery, whereas the southern, exactly the 11 states, the southern states of America were against to the abolition of slavery, because these 11 states were actually getting benefited by the slavery trade, and as well as the southern part of America is actually having a kind of humid type of climate, tropical type of climate, and that is what a kind of crops which is suited for the tropical climate. Only that crops were grown in the southern part of America, especially in the 11th state, like cotton, maize, sugarcane, which are actually tropical crops. So in order to work in the tropical climate, in the humid climate, obviously the Americans are actually not shown interest, and that is the reason they employed the African slaves. And the many states of 11 states were actually getting benefited by the slavery trade, and that is the reason these 11 states who are, the southern 11 states were against the abolition of slavery. But Abraham Lincoln is very adamant, he want to abolish the slavery. In the first year itself, he attempted. So what they happened is, the 11 states were formed into Confederate of States. The 11 states were formed into Confederate State of America. A union, a kind of confederation was formed, and they revolted against the Abraham Lincoln government. These 11 states formed into a union, confederation, that is Confederate States of America, and revolted against the Abraham Lincoln government. They even decided to come out of United States of America, because United States of America was formed by the agreement between the states. Okay, if a state doesn't like to if the state doesn't like to continue with the America, they can easily get it off from the union, because from the United, because USA is a United States of America, it is formed by the agreement of the states. Okay, so these 11 states formed into Confederate States of America and revolted against the Abraham Lincoln. Even they decided to come out of United States of America. But finally, because of the confrontation between the Abraham Lincoln government, and especially with the northern states, with the southern states, and finally all these 11 states were accepted the, and finally all the 11 states were accepted the abolition of slavery. Accepted the abolition of slavery. All the states which are actually opposed to the abolition of slavery, and finally accepted the abolition of slavery. And eventually they made 3 important constitutional amendment. One is 30th Constitutional Amendment, 30th Constitutional Amendment, and 40th Constitutional Amendment. Next one, 15th Constitutional Amendment. This 38th Constitutional Amendment is actually deals with abolition of slavery. And next one is that 48th Constitutional Amendment is given the civil rights, providing the civil rights, and the 50th Constitutional Amendment deals with the voting rights. For whom? To the Afro-American slaves. Afro-American slaves. Okay, so because of the 13th, 14th, 15th constitutional amendment which was made in the 1865, just now I said the American Civil War actually took place between the 1861 to 1865, and after the completion of the American Civil War in the itself 1865, the three constitutional amendments were made. The 13th constitutional amendment abolished the slavery. The 14th constitutional amendment given the civil rights to the Afro-American slaves, and the 15th constitutional amendment given the voting rights to the Afro-American slaves. All these constitutional amendments are actually made with respect to the Afro-American slaves. So this is what about the Abraham Lincoln and his important role in the American Civil War. But because of this rivalry and the people who are actually not liked the abolition of slavery and attempted assassinated the Abraham Lincoln. Okay, thank you.